Hi guys, my name is Antos, and today I want to talk about a new anamorphic lens, or you could call it a lens adapter to get that, cinematic anamorphic look. If you guys don't know what anamorphic is or what that anamorphic look is, I'll just sort of do a quick recap because I did a video before talking about the anamorphic lenses. So anamorphic simply means that it's wider aspect ratio, but also that it's the bokeh will look a little bit different, and then also creates usually those kind of horizontal flares. And anamorphic has been sort of used, mainly like since the 50s, 60s, to sort of, get people from watching, the new technology, which was television at the time, and get them coming back to the cinemas. So they would film these really wide sort of aspect ratio, grand, cinematic sort of, epic films. Now, ever since then, anamorphic lenses have actually been used still on many music videos or films. To give it that sort of old school sort of, like I said, grand cinematic look. And now for indie filmmakers, getting anamorphic lenses is never realistic because they're just too expensive. So there's a lot of do-it-yourself or sort of these sort of workarounds or these sort of cheaper filters that kind of replicate the look. So I did a video already about that. If you want to see that, just click on the first link in the description of this video. That will take you to the post regarding this, and also I'm going to post all the other information about where you can get this and all the other accessories, lenses I use with it, all that stuff. Anyway, so getting back to cheap anamorphic lenses. Well, this is I think really the only really lens on the market right now that is, I would say, cheap or affordable. It retails for $8.99. I got this from BH Photo. And just with this lens or lens adapter, I'm not really quite sure what to call it, you'll actually be able to get the real cinematic look and all the effects and sort of the aesthetics that come with it. Because this actually in turn will convert your still DSLR lenses into sort of a proper anamorphic lens. And now the way that this works is you still have to put this in front of another lens. So you basically you put sort of like this little adapter that comes with it, and you thread it onto the lens, and then that will effectively, like I said, convert your DSLR lens into an anamorphic lens because of the front glass element, which has that, you can see sort of this oval shape, and also it widens your field of view, so it actually gives you a real true sort of a wider aspect ratio. Now, because of that, the footage when you're seeing it, on your camera, like on the LCD of your camera, everything's gonna seem to be kind of squished because this is designed to work with 16:9 aspect ratio cameras. So if you're shooting, 1080p, for example, or 720, or even if you're shooting 4K, but you're shooting 16:9 aspect ratio, it will effectively take a wider field of view and sort of squeeze it and fit it onto a 16:9 aspect ratio, and then in your editing program, when you sort of de-squeeze it, it will actually give you a proper 2.35 cinema sort of a wide aspect ratio look. And now I know a lot of people have been sort of confused and sort of worried about how do you work with this footage since everything's squeezed. Is it difficult, all that stuff? It's actually very, very simple. Let me show you here in Adobe Premiere. Literally all you have to do to your footage is just right-click on it, click modify or interpret the footage, and then you go to your settings and you just change aspect ratio from 16:9 or 1:1 pixel aspect ratio to the anamorphic 1.33 pixel aspect ratio. And once you do that, that's it. Your footage is properly displayed. And then the same thing with your timeline. Or you can just take that footage, drop it into a 1080p timeline, or create a timeline with that same aspect ratio. Really makes no difference. And you can do the same thing basically in most of any kind of good editing application like Final Cut or Sony Vegas. You can just change the aspect ratio of your footage. Very simple, very quick, and this way you can properly see your footage displayed. And the advantage of doing it this way versus, for example, you could just shoot a standard 16:9 aspect ratio for your videos, and then let's say put the black bars on top and bottom, which is what a lot of filmmakers do, indie filmmakers do, to give it that sort of a wider aspect ratio. But the problem with that is that or not so much a problem, but sort of the advantage of doing it this way, I could say, is that you're actually taking and using all of those pixels of information and squeezing it into that aspect ratio, meaning you're just going to get a higher quality image, a bit sharper, all that stuff, versus if you just take a standard 16:9 aspect ratio and you put black bars on top and bottom, you're just losing all those pixels of information on the top and the bottom. So that's one advantage of using this adapter. Another advantage is that it actually produces real anamorphic bokeh, and what that means is that bokeh is the out of focus areas, so it's actually going to create that sort of blurry and kind of oval looking bokeh in your shots. And also another thing, of course, that a lot of people want when they're, when they're looking at anamorphic, lenses, is that they want to get that anamorphic sort of a horizontal lens streaks. And with this lens, for sure, you can get it. Here you can see some quick little tests I did for a music video I shot with Daystorm. And actually, I shot that whole music video with Daystorm just using this adapter and my one basically Lumix G Vario 12 to 35 millimeter zoom lens from Panasonic, and I put this onto the Panasonic GH4, shot it in 4K, and literally the whole music video, I just, like I said, I had both of these together, and and I shot it, never had to swap out a lens. And I was able to get some really, really cool looks. And I think what's cool about using, especially when you have like a zoom lens like this, is that you can then very easily, with this, like I said, with the zoom lens, sort of change your focal length. And this one goes from 12 to 35 millimeters. But in reality, you're never even, I don't think I was ever really able to go past like 19 or 20 millimeters basically on this lens. Because the one sort of, I would say, disadvantage of using the anamorphic adapter is that because you're essentially putting it, like I said, another piece of glass in front of your lens, you cannot go too wide with it, because if you go too wide, you're going to start seeing the edges, here of the lens or of this adapter. So that's the problem. So you're never going to be able to get really, really sort of wide angle shots like, maybe like a 12, whatever, millimeter kind of a lens. But still, I would say you can get like you can see this whole music video I shot with just this one lens and the anamorph adapter, and you're able to get lots of different looking shots, because the thing is that this anamorph adapter actually creates a wider field of view for you. So you're still able to get you're not really getting a 20, let's say, millimeter lens. You're getting a slightly bit wider than that. Another sort of aesthetic or thing that anamorphic lenses create is actually they create an even shallower depth of field. And the reason why that happens is because it effectively gives you a wider field of view. So then to get the same kind of a framing on an anamorphic lens means you actually have to zoom in a bit more, so the focal length increases. And if you guys know anything about depth of field, one of the three things that affect depth of field is actually the focal length, meaning the longer the focal length, then the shallower depth of field. The other two is obviously the aperture size and then the distance to your subject or to your focus point. I did a video a long time ago about talking about depth of field and how you can control depth of field and get shallow, or narrow depth of field, or really long depth of field or deep depth of field. And if you guys want information on that, again, check out that video. I'll post the link in the description of this video. And it's, I would sort of suggest that if you guys don't know exactly what depth of field is, or for example, or how you control it, it's a good video to watch, because it will sort of explain everything and show you examples. And that will apply to all cameras. Anyway, so getting back to this adapter, I think for the price, $8.99, you're getting a cool thing, because like I said, I was able to shoot a whole music video on it and really get that true anamorphic lens look. Wider aspect ratio, nice, cinematic sort of oval bokeh, and also the same thing with the lens flares. Lens flares look beautiful on this lens. You don't even have to shine a light directly into it, but if you do, for example, like in these shots you can see up here, it really creates noticeable, nice looking flares with all those secondary reflections in it. So that's a cool thing. And like I said, and it's pretty easy to use. There's been out there already other sort of, you could say anamorphic adapters that you put in front of the lenses, but they're usually, first of all, they're very big, heavy piece of glass, so that means you have to have a really good sturdy lens in front of it, whereas this is very, very light and actually pretty small. And also it's so easy to use. You literally just, like I said, screw it in front of your lens. You sort of there's this little notch here on the top. You make sure that that's actually lined up perfectly on the top, basically like in the middle of your lens, so it's on the top. And then that's it. You just start focusing, and you don't really have to worry about, like you have to do with a lot of other anamorphic adapters, where you have to focus your lens and then you focus the anamorphic adapter. Here, I would, in general, just leave it here. You have just two settings here on the front. It says normal and then narrow. I would just leave it to normal, and then just keep on, like I said, just adjust the focus on my lens. And especially on this music video with Daystorm, a lot of the shots were handheld, people were moving it around, and so there's no way I could have even been, focusing both my lens and the adapter. So literally all I was doing is just adjusting the focus on my actual lens, and I was able to get really sharp looking shots. And then if you sometimes basically go really close to subject, then you just switch this here, this ring, to narrow, and that will allow you to focus really close to certain subjects. Now there's a little accessory here for this you can get, and it's these diopters. I got these again from PH Photo too. They were able to send me this whole package sort of to try it out. And I've tried them out, they're great, and they're gonna really able to, like I said, especially if you're using really sort of fast lenses, like below f2.8, which I wouldn't recommend anyways, but if you want to use it, then these diopters will come in handy, because that's when focusing will become really critical, because the depth of field is going to be so narrow that it's going to be very hard to focus it with just that adapter. So you're going to be putting these two diopters basically, or one of them, in front of the anamorphic basically lens. And now for me, to be honest, like I've used this just for my tests, but in the actual work that I did, like especially this music video with Daystorm, I did not end up using this even once. And the reason is because it just adds an extra hassle, and time basically. So especially when you're working on these sort of faster sort of jobs where you have to move around and be able to quickly, like I said, change your shot, your focal length, all that stuff. Last thing you want to worry about is having, carrying this around with you, putting in front of it, your lens. So I would say if, you might want to get it if you want. There's a package you can get where you get this and with the diopters, then I believe it's like $1,100. But to be honest, like I said, it's you're probably rarely going to use this if you're using it with like an f2.8 or higher lens. So if that's sort of what you think you're going to be using it, then I wouldn't bother with the diopters. But I would definitely recommend this anamorphic lens. Like I said, it creates those nice flares, the bokeh, all that stuff, and it's actually pretty easy to use. And then for the first time, it actually gives indie filmmakers the ability to create real, true, not some kind of fake anamorphic lens look. So if you guys want to get this, I would recommend you go to BH Photo and get it from their website. I provide the links in the description of this video. BH Photo offers free shipping on this and on most of their items. So it's a great deal, and they literally have the best deal out there that I was able to find right now. So anyways, thank you guys, and I'll see you next time.